What can be causing your fitness to stall, your weight loss to stall? I'll tell you coming up next. What's good, guys? Naomi here, the Healthy Habits Coach from NaomiRios.com, your premier source where in this channel I empower you to transform your fitness into wellness through habits, discipline, and balance. Let's jump right in. Some of you have expressed to me that you thought you'd be farther along right now in your weight loss journey. You started off with your New Year's resolution, the rah, and you've kind of stalled now. And I wanted to touch on a few things because when I'm looking at the programming that you set for yourself, I noticed that you kind of just use all of your arsenals, all of the tools in your arsenal at once. And so let's start progressively. If this is something that you've been doing, if you've been doing the weightlifting, the training, the circuit training, you've been doing cardio, you've been all of that stuff, you may be using everything all at once. The body will consider this a lot of stress, and that's one of the first things it'll want to do is just like, whoa, what's going on? Because you haven't accustomed it to this before. So it's a lot of stress on the body. That's one. That raises cortisol levels, which is a hormone. That will prevent you from losing weight. Another thing is that if, say for example, you're starting out with your nutrition, try to focus on one thing at a time. If you're the type of person that has been used to all this time just eating junk food, eating chips, eating Mickey D's, eating shakes from Steak and Shake, no judgment there, they are delicious. But if that's what you've been accustomed to, then maybe you should try modifying your diet before you go directly into training. So what I mean by this is you may want to try to cut out one of those meals, just one, and replace it with a healthy meal. If that's really, really tedious for you because you've been having this day in, day out, every single meal, I have a tip for you. Try adding a green vegetable, not a salad, but an actual green vegetable, asparagus, broccoli, green beans, that type of thing. Green vegetable before your Mickey D's. What that will do is that you'll get some nutrients in, you'll feel a little bit less hungry and ravenous before you dig into your Mickey D's, and it'll get you into a habit of adding greens to every meal before you actually start changing the entree, so to speak. So that will be one habit that you can implement that's going to make a big difference long term. But it's one of those habits that it's so simple and you're still getting your fix. So you're eventually going to convert that bad habit into a good habit. This is how you enforce good habits. You don't remove them because that's what you've been used to doing all this time, but you add good habits so that eventually those good habits can replace the bad ones. I hope that makes sense. Moving on to tip number 2. So as far as training is concerned, if you're not accustomed to training, look, I commend you for wanting to go full throttle and all of that. The thing is, again, if you do too much too fast, you may stall. This is not just to build habits one at a time. What you're trying to do here is lay the foundation so that you can be able to do this long term. Because guess what? If you're not used to doing this long term, you're gonna reach your goal and you're just gonna go right back to where you started. And that's what we want to avoid. This is what I want you to avoid, you guys. It's so much easier to do this habit by habit, one day at a time, than it is to just do it all in 3 months and then you reverse. That's not what we're trying to accomplish here. So as far as training is concerned, if you have not been used to working out, if you are starting out from ground zero, perhaps a better option would be to get your nutrition dialed in first, right? We already talked about that. But then once you start integrating training, maybe start doing one training session a week. Maybe if it's still too much and you don't think you'll be able to get to that full 20, 30 minutes one time a week, that is fine. There is no shame in that. You have forever to get to a good place with your fitness, with your nutrition, with your wellness. We're trying to build habits, so we want a habit stack, okay? Now, when you're going into that training session, if you're not even comfortable with training and you really don't know what you're doing, you can do one of two things, because the thing is to get you moving, right? So say, for example, you don't know how to train, you don't know what machines to use in the gym, and you don't really have the finances right now to hire a trainer, go for a walk. Everyone walks. We all know how to walk. Go for a walk. You don't even need to run. And if 5 minutes a week to start, and I did say 5 minutes a week, not 5 minutes 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. No, 5 minutes a week, if that's gonna get you out the door, just be the person that shows up for those 5 minutes. That's it. That's all I'm asking, 5 minutes. If you can do more than that, great. But what I don't want you to do is start walking for 5 minutes, feel like, oh, I gotta do 30 minutes of this 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a week, because if not, I'm not gonna get to my goal. You've done this before. You've tried this before. You've done this cycle before. So I don't want you to, again, go back. And this is what's going to happen if you continue on the same train you've gone on before. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3. Whatever habit you're going to implement, whether it's the first 2 that I told you about earlier, I want you to make it as simple and as scalable for you to be able to transition into the weekend. Because let's be honest, most of us, we tend to want to hang out with friends, we want to go out and eat lunch and dinner, or just hang out with our friends and have a pie of pizza, and there's nothing, food is celebration, I've said this before, food is celebration. I love to eat. I love it, I love it, I love it. And especially when it's good food. And so, yeah, I love to eat. And I'm sure you do too, who doesn't? So what I want you to do is, again, if you're inserting that vegetable, that's gonna be super easy to carry through the weekend. Just, hey, before that, before I go to dinner and I order a pie of pizza, can I get a side of broccoli with that? And you'll eat the broccoli before the pizza. Voila. You still stayed on track. You have still kept with your habit. Got that? So your habit needs to be as scaled down that you can carry it in through the weekend. The more small wins you have, the more you'll see yourself as that person that shows up for yourself. The more you see yourself as the person that shows up for yourself, the more your identity will change into saying, I don't want to be a healthy person. I am a healthy person. I don't want to be a marathoner. My goal is to be a runner. And when your identity shifts, you'll be able to see yourself as someone who can be doing this long term because you are that person. You're not wanting to get to be that person. But that only comes with the evidence of scaling your habits first and then meeting those habits one by one. So make your habits as scaled down as possible so they can carry you through the weekend, the week, the month. Tip number 4. So not 44, but 4. Okay, so tip number 4. Going back to training. I've seen this so much and I just want you to stop the madness. Do not start training and doing cardio all at once. Leave some tools in your arsenal, please, I beg of you. What happens when you start doing all of this exercising, once your body stalls and it gets to a plateau, say for example, you've been doing weight training 5 times a week, and during those 5 times a week, you've been doing cardio 5 times a week. Guess what? When your body plateaus, what arsenal tool are you going to be using? Because if you start off with building on the habit that I said earlier, maybe walking, then you transition into training, you're gradually progressing. So your body's not going to be stalling because you're doing this one step at a time, okay? So now you're at 5 times a week and cardio 5 times a week. When your body stalls, guess what? What you would have added so that it could have progressed more would have been cardio. Maybe HIIT, high intensity interval training, if you're not familiar with the phrase HIIT, maybe once a week and then again. And then if your body stalls again, maybe you add it twice a week. So you're again progressing. This will allow your body to progressively change. And again, this comes back to your identity. So if you are thinking to yourself, I want to lose weight, that's the goal. And there's nothing wrong with that goal. But the goal is to be losing weight or to be a healthy person. Do you want to be a healthy person or you want to be a skinny person? That's the outcome. So you want to focus on the process or the structure that'll get you there instead of the outcome. If you focus too much on the outcome, what's going to happen is that once you reach that outcome, that's it. There's nothing else to get to. There's nothing else to progress to. So you always want to focus on your identity. And lastly, tip number 5. So tip number 5, track your progress. So I like to use the application coach.me, but you can always just have a list, label them 1 to 30 across, list down your habits down this way, and each time that you complete that habit, you just cross. And that will give you a visual as to what you're doing on a weekly, monthly, etc. basis. How many times you've done it, how many times you've shown up for yourself. And again, if you don't want it in written form, coach.me is the application that I use. I love that app because it also gives me a visual of the month if I go into that habit directly. So that's it, guys. I really hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. I will link my website down below as well. Ask me as many questions as you want. I am here to serve you.